There we go. All right. What's up?
Yeah. Well, I'm stoked to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No, thanks for being on the. I don't know if this is a show or if this is a weekly tips segment or what it is, but maybe it's just an amalgamation of everything.
This is Cait and James's first slash or I can't even talk. First slash inaugural Thursday tips. It would work better if it was Tuesday because then it would be Tuesday tips, but Thursdays works too. We'll roll with that for now.
Yours is closer to the weekend.
True. Tomorrow is not just roadie Friday, but actual Friday.
Yeah.
At least for me. For a lot of bands, it's probably like Wednesday. I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
those
Exactly.
days.
Yeah. So, for those, if you're watching this screen or you're listening, James and I, we met actually recently, but had kind of seen each other's content before. Both sort of working in like the music industry space and marketing and trying to help, bands, brands, businesses basically just be a little bit better with having the right expertise and tools, the right time and the right way the first time and trying to save, time and money, right? And a lot of heartache and a lot of headaches.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
and that was a big reason why I thought it'd be good to just jump on and share some tips. So if you guys have questions or if there's certain things that you're looking for us to kind of delve in about, like let us know or DM both of us. I'll make sure that both of our Instagrams are linked. But no, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned from James, you guys, is that like there's a lot of information out there, and sometimes, it takes a little bit of time to figure out what your plan or your strategy is, or what your brand looks like, or what your merch should be, or how to tour effectively, or to get grants, and, like, there's a lot to do as a band and a business, right?
Yeah.
And James really creates a lot of, like, great video content, a lot of tips, just a lot of really great quality content that helps a lot of the people that I know that, are gonna do it right the first time instead of half-assing it or buying shitty software or, applying for grants that really aren't applicable to what they're trying to do from, like, a growth stage or touring. So that's a big reason, why I kind of like to look to James for a lot of that stuff because it really helps a lot of the clients that I'm working with, and I'm kind of working into the industry myself. So I think it's good to kind of work with people that are better at it than you. I've always said that. So again, really stoked that you're on here. And I just the video that I'd seen right before I joined and I shared it and I can't agree with you anymore. Was about what you were talking about experience with bands. And you've mentioned it before. I see it a lot. And I think whether it's a band, a brand, or a business, there's so much out there and so many options nowadays, no matter what it is you're looking for. And you really have to have something special,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And I want to touch on something you just said there, whether it's a band, a brand, or a business. One of my early catchphrases was, your band is a brand, your brand is a business.
Ooh, okay.
So, like, I think those are all connected. Now, not obvious, like, not every business is a band, not every brand is a band, but every band is a brand, and every
Oh, absolutely.
brand is part of
Yeah.
a business.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the funnel. Like at the tip of the funnel, you have the band, and that's like your little niche that you're in as a business owner, as a brand.
Yep.
So there's, so many different businesses out there and bands, even though there's thousands or probably hundreds of thousands of bands across the world. That's such a small amount compared to all the other businesses in the world. But
Right.
there is so much knowledge out there that we can learn from based on all these other industries. Looking beyond entertainment, we can look and say like, hey, real estate agents use CRMs. Lots of businesses use CRMs.
To
We
my
can use
language.
that in our band.
Big time. Yeah. I mean, I usually recommend like free trials of like HubSpot or certain things because they've got a really, really powerful CRM pipeline. They've got a great way to elevate your team, give you tasks, do follow up, see what's going on, do
Yeah,
deals. And I think that's huge. And when you start really looking at it as a business, things definitely change.
absolutely. I mean, and that's really what it comes down to. Like with what I do with Bandhive, I love it when artists take control and say, yes, this is my business. This is what we're going to do. And let me be
Right.
clear. I don't have a problem with people who just want to make music as a hobby. That's fine. Like if you just want to make music and have fun and hang out with your friends, go do that. But don't expect that,
Yes.
6
Exactly.
months
The
from now, some label is gonna say, "Hey, we want you." Like, no, that's not gonna happen. The label's gonna go
why
after the
didn't you
band
get
that's
an award
putting in the
or
effort.
play at a festival? Or it's because, if you're not doing the work, then no one's gonna wanna work with you or work, even alongside you, right? And I
Right.
think that's the same with
Exactly.
business. You can't just be making the same, like from a social media perspective, and whether it's, music or restaurant businesses or whatever it is that I'm working with, I think you can't have those same stagnated pictures of wings or event graphics or things that are going on. That's not something that I can engage with. I want to see, like the reality of like the behind the scenes, the team, why things meant something, why they wrote the lyrics that they meant. Yes, they were going through a breakup or something was going on. I think that that's people need to have some sort of emotional connection to the things that they support, especially with their purchasing power, especially as they age, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the more you can kind of look at your endeavors as a business, like the quicker and work with people, like you and me and, some of the other experts that we know and refer, I think it definitely saves them a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of heartache, and empowers them to do things that they probably didn't think of, not because they couldn't do it, but you don't know what you don't know. And I've definitely learned that just working now in the music industry for a little bit. So
Yeah. Yeah, I learned that lesson daily.
yeah.
Like, if you're in
Yeah.
the music business, I can almost guarantee that you are learning that lesson quite a bit. I mean, I've been in music 13 years in various roles, and
Yeah.
I still learn daily. So, I think that's a really important thing, and, you know, you and I know what kind of behind the scenes stuff artists should share, but maybe the people listening don't understand that fully. Do you wanna go into a little more detail on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, a lot of people like probably 5 or 10 years ago were really looking for a really high level like corporate branding, things that would make them, look very appealing, win them awards, get them grants. And that was from a business and like a music perspective, right? But what people really wanna see is people at practice, people prepping food, people actually, like, making, like, the graphics for their clients so that they have something and somebody to support. Because it's not about what you know or what I know, it's about who we are and the things that we do with the stuff that we know. And I
Yep.
think, like, and I've had 3 or 4 meetings today just with clients and talking about this exact subject, and I told them, "You don't have to be on there like the wacky inflatable tube man, showing your face all the time." There's a lot of different, functions and ways to kind of use social media and video and stuff to kind of use, like, voiceovers and stuff to showcase who you are, why you got into music or into business, what you're struggling with, what you need from your audience. "Hey, our new single just came out," or "Our new menu is just released. Do you mind sharing it to your audience?" People don't mind doing things if you give them really consciously thoughtful, content.
Yeah, I
That's
agree with
that's been
that.
that's been my experience, and if you wanna half-ass it and DIY it, I still think that that's fine, but don't half-ass it. If you're gonna DIY, do it sometimes, but also work with good graphic designers, good people that know what they're doing, that will help you on tour, that will give you good show photographs. Like, I've heard you talk about that so much, and I've said that too, like, having good photography, having a good website, it's more than just investing in marketing, right? And it really is trying to elevate, um, the entity of what you're representing, you know?
Yeah, agreed. And on that note of, like good assets for your tours and stuff like you're mentioning, show posters. I see so
Yeah.
many bad show posters that are
Oh,
literally like
so
a
good.
random photo with black text on it and no outline around the text, so it's like halfway disappearing into the image.
It's good. Or,
Canva
my
is
favorite
free.
or when they do, yeah, I've done so many videos on this, but when I see really, like, big organizations with budgets and, like, really, like, good marketing people, and they'll do logos without, like, the transparent backgrounds, and, like, they'll
Oh,
We'll put these as
yes.
their sponsored, and these are probably like $5 to $25,000 partner, right? And I
Yeah.
would just be so mortified, or like when you see them and there's like 30,000 logos
Yep. And
on
they
there.
all have a slightly different shade of black or white as the background.
I
It's
always say, even if you can do it, even just spend 1 hour. It's usually between depending whether it's freelance or agency and whether that's US or Canadian, anywheres between like 50 and $300 will give you an hour or a couple hours of someone's time that will be happy to either just give you something a little bit better or tweak what you have.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Or at
mean,
least tell you, is it accessible? Do the fonts make sense? Is it inclusive? Does it take in the area, the whoever's involved? Is it the proper logo of the venue? Like, just that kind of stuff, because it really does play a big part on, like, the legacy of those items, right?
yeah. And if you look at the cost over time, it's nothing. So Bandhive was not the original name of my podcast. I rebranded just about 2 years ago. It's like a year and 9 months. And the original show, I did pretty much everything myself as far as graphics. And I mean, it wasn't great. I'm not a visually inclined person.
Yep.
And then when I rebranded, I said, "Hey, I'm gonna do this right," and, I found a great designer to work with, and it was like $200, and this is a guy who works for Coca-Cola and all kinds of, like, huge brands over in the UK.
Yep.
Richard Portman, great designer. If anyone needs a designer, check him out. $200, and I'm gonna use that for the foreseeable future, like, and it's already been 2 years. So at this point, it's $100 a year. In 10 years, it's gonna be $20 a year.
Yeah.
That's so cheap. Like, look at a band like Rammstein. They've basically had the same logo for 30 years.
Mhm.
They probably paid like, I don't know, 100 Deutsche Mark back in the day for that,
Right.
and they're still using that logo. Now, I'm sure they've had it updated and all that kind of stuff, but it's so cheap in the big picture.
And I have this, conversation sometimes with clients, and they can be, first time business owners, haven't started yet. It can be startup companies with a lot of influx money or from angel investors. It can be from bands. Um, but sometimes people will come to me with what they think that they need. So somebody will say, "Hey, Kate, I need a new logo," or I need a website," or "I need," and they'll say something. And I usually have about 5 questions that I'll ask them to really drill down what it is that they need. Usually it's that they need more money. That's usually always the case, right? And it's either
Yeah.
ticket sales, more product online sales, our merch needs to be sold, we need to have higher engagement, but it usually converts into, we need more money. And I don't know, I kind of look at, those things as a, I don't know, it's a big marker for business.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that I do when I look at a business, whether it's a restaurant or a band or whatever, if they don't have a website, I instantly take them less seriously.
Well,
Like,
and that's
it's
it.
$10 a month most places.
Yeah.
You get it set up and it's there, and it's a central hub for everything you do.
And
But especially for, like, a restaurant, I find it so strange when they don't have a website with their menu on it.
right. And I think too, I don't discount how much things are or how much they cost, and I don't tell people to just take the cheap route, right? But for
Yeah.
example, like websites, like I used to work for like a bigger agency, and like the websites like were a lot more custom. There was no Squarespace, there was no Wix, like there were no templates. They would build them and
Right.
then they would custom code everything. So of course the functionality in the back end, the user ability, like everything was very custom. So of course you're into the thousands, tens of thousands into some of them. Like I've seen $100,000 websites, like
Yeah.
for a joke, right? But at the same time, you have to think about what is it? How are my people going to navigate to what they need to know? When are my shows? Who am I or who are we? And what is it that we have to offer? Because usually there's a call to action. They either have something coming up, you need something to buy, or they need something to be read, right?
Yeah.
And I think that usually when you ask those questions, maybe if you had $5,000 and you wanted to get a new website, maybe you spend 1,000 or 2,000 instead of 3 or 4, and you spend 1,000 with a consultant and 1,000 with a graphic designer, and really try to make that money work back for you. And I always say, don't do anything unless something else happens. So you shouldn't just
Mhm.
buy ads just because your event isn't selling. The venue should not do that. The venue should go out and, for example, make videos, work with the local tourism departments, tell people in the local area to give them shareable assets, right? That's way better than spending 20 or $100 on some event post, right? People don't want to see sponsored shit anymore,
Yeah.
you know?
Especially Instagram is converting more and more,
So
and everyone's annoyed by it, to
and
seeing more ads, unless they're good ads.
And
Like, if
sometimes, like, your website, it doesn't necessarily have to be what it used to be back in the day, because websites used to have to host everything, But now, like, very much, for example, like, I use my Instagram to just kind of post everyday work stuff, tips and tricks, dog, whatever. LinkedIn, all primarily work. Facebook, kind of a mix of both. But I think, like, the website acts as a spot where if people go to it, they know that's where my professional info is, right? So if you
Yep.
just give people proper channels, so if I know as a restaurant, if I go to your Google listing, your hours should be accurate. I don't care if your website's
Yes.
fully populated, but just have a PDF of your menu. Have something, right? But if you're, a really well-established band or, or nobody, right? You should have, like, your band members on there. You should, rather than, buy a bunch of, like, I don't know, stickers and things, maybe you should actually invest in some headshots and, like, band photography and actually, like, get out there, do interviews with other, like, local podcasts and get some distribution so that when you have a show in that town, as you know, this is your life, right? Then you have a little bit more of a local pickup, right? So,
Yeah.
and I think that's like that with the businesses I work with too. It's just like, give a shit about what you're putting out, and you don't have to put it out all the time. Like, you used to have to put out something every day and compete and whatever, but if I wanna know what my favorite band's up to, I don't need to see them all the time on the feed. I wanna go and tune in with them. I wanna go and, like, see other things. I wanna follow them on other platforms because I give a shit, right? At least that's me anyways.
No, that totally makes sense, and I've noticed that too. Instagram is trying to be TikTok, becoming more,
Yeah.
uh, algorithm based and all that. So a lot of the artists that I follow, I don't see them in my feed anymore. Then I'll
No,
think,
no,
"Oh, hey,
same here.
what's this band up to?" And I go look at their page, and it's like 12 new posts. I'm like, "I
Oh,
wanted to see those, but okay." And then I go look and I say, "Oh, there was actually only one I cared about."
right.
Instagram was right. I didn't need to see all 12 of those.
Yeah.
Um, so to me, I think I want to go back to you mentioned photographers, and that is
Yep.
so important. And I think it's really always worth it to pay somebody. And I know there's always a person who's willing to do it for free to get the
Yep.
experience, blah, blah, blah. And they should be able to get that experience. But you're considering your band as a business. Let one of the hobbyist bands go with the person who will do it for free and find somebody who actually knows what they're doing and pay them. Maybe it's $100, maybe it's $200, maybe it's 500. If they're really good at what they do, pay people what they're worth. But don't just go for the cheapest option or the free option, because you kind of get what you pay for. And unless this is somebody who does this a lot and is just a friend and offers to do it for free, in which case,
Bonus.
still toss them some money or at
Yeah.
least buy them a pizza or something.
Yeah.
In that case, whatever. But if it's free because they're not any good, well, the photos aren't going to be any good. So
Exactly.
don't do that.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I've had a lot of experience with this because I have a lot of, like, friends that are consultants and they've gone out on their own or they'll do photography and they do a lot of, let's say, creative things with other friends and bands and other people because it's the outlet for them. So that's sort of how I got into music and stuff years ago, was because I love doing the marketing stuff. That the corporate stuff was fun, don't get me wrong, but when festivals would come to me or when, like, my friends' bands would come to me, or if I had, like, new opportunities to take on, like, my own clients that were doing really cool things, I wanted that ability to offer that skill set and kind of merge them. And I kind of understand, as, like, a patron of music and attending for so long, sometimes what you're missing, right? So sometimes it's not all just about, like, the flashy, photography or whatever. It's about just, like, getting on and, like, doing a reel and talking about why the single you guys just put out matters, or, like, where
Yeah.
you recorded it, or, like, because obviously it meant you guys carved out time to go in every day and practice, right? So
Right.
give people a reason to care, right? And I think that's, like, kind of with everything, but I've just been noticing it a lot more lately.
Yeah. I think there's one really key thing we should touch on here too, is that I see a lot of artists go into the studio and they do a great job of documenting everything.
Mhm.
And then they just post one big photo dump, and then they don't release their EP, album, whatever, for another 6 months.
Yeah.
It's
There's
so
nothing
much.
to kinda nurture that, like, "Oh, it's coming out. Oh, this is exciting," or yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
What makes so much more sense, and I've seen, the example I love to use is Infinite Signal. They were a band from San Diego. Unfortunately, they split up at the start of the pandemic. Or no, about a year into the pandemic. Either way, it doesn't matter. They did a great job. They were in the studio in, like, March of 2019, And they didn't post a single photo from that session until September or October of 2019, leading up to the ultimate release in January of 2020. That's how you do the plan. Like, they didn't even tell people they were in the studio. They kept it all under wraps until they had put together the whole plan. And
Mhm.
I know how tempting it is to say, look at this cool thing we're doing right now when you're in the studio. But as part of the bigger picture, the bigger plan,
Yep.
holding on to that and keeping things under wraps, like, that's what a lot of bigger bands do. You know, you'll see the odd band here and there post, "Hey, we're in the studio," and then you don't hear anything for months.
Yeah.
But you look at the biggest names,
Yeah.
you're all of a sudden gonna hear, "Hey, new album in 2 months," and then the content starts coming.
Yeah.
That's how
Well,
it
even
goes.
I mean, let's even go to Blink-182 for a second. Like, a couple of months
Yes.
ago, people were already asking because of all the Kardashian shows coming out, "Oh, do you think they're gonna tour? They've mentioned it on the show. Oh my goodness." And then you start seeing Mark mention something on a talk show. "Oh, we're writing new music. You never know, like, what you'll see." And then people start looking for Easter eggs, right? They start looking like, do bios change? Do logos change? And then all of a sudden you start seeing billboards go up with a new Blink 182 logo. And people are like, what the fuck is going on? What do you mean? Right. And it's just like slow dripping it. And then people are like, what? Their website is under construction. What do you, and it's creating that anticipation as a marketing person. They could have one off, had a checklist and had that all go as one and boom, and it's done and all good. But
Yep.
there's a reason why hundreds of thousands of TikToks have been created about the Blink 182 tour.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and also now about their ticket prices, but that's a different topic. But I think it is interesting how some bands will do that. And like I think it's great. I like seeing that approach. I just like plans. That's all.
Yeah.
And
No,
even if
I
it
I
is
love that.
changing, at least, if you're struggling, just ask for help.
Right. That so many people will be willing to help. Like, it's amazing. First of all, you never know what skills are out in your fan base. You
Right.
might, like, you might have a tour manager who worked with huge acts
Yep.
on your Instagram following. So if you say, "Hey, we need help putting together a tour," they could reach out and say, "I got you. Like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
Here's a quick idea." And with the blank thing, what I really loved about that is that they kind of, and I'm sure it was intentional, leaked the 2023 When We Were Young date. Because what happened was it was
Yeah.
on the Blink website, and you go there and it's like, "Oh, hey, this page isn't active yet." And like 3 hours later, all of a sudden, When We Were Young posted, "Hey, tickets go on sale this week." And then all the information was there for the first date, which I'm sure there's gonna be at least one more if they're not gonna do 3 or like they did this year or
Yeah.
even 4. Um, Point being that all of that is a well orchestrated effort. And a lot of people then I saw talking about When We Were Young saying, "Hey, no, this is a scam. What kind of festival announces their next year before this year even happened?" It's like, well, it's because it was Blink 182 was making this huge announcement and they want to have it all at the same time.
Yeah. That's right.
Like if
Yeah.
if Blink weren't announcing their comeback and their tour on that day, When We Were Young wouldn't have been announced for probably
Months.
2 or 3 more
Yep.
months.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was all because of Blink. Like, that doesn't make it a scam. Like, all the artists have been booked for probably 6 months already.
Yeah.
They acts at that level are booking 18 months in advance.
Right.
It's not like Blink-182 just calls up the venues and says, "We're playing this date next summer," and then announces it the next
Yeah,
day.
yeah. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
people seem to think that's how it works. No, that's not how it works. It's all been in
They
the
call
works for
into, like,
quite
the
some time.
wizard phone, they're like, "Yo, it's blank. We're gonna be" yeah, so if you could just add us as a non-transparent PNG to the poster, that would be great. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's what it seems like people feel that festival is.
Yeah.
And, like, no. And when the original one was announced back in, January, people were freaking out because one of the smaller bands had said, "We didn't know about this." It's like, "Well, but your agent did, so who cares if you didn't know about it?" I mean, sorry they didn't tell you,
Yeah, bonus, but
but you were booked. They just didn't tell you or you didn't pay attention to your schedule.
oh,
That doesn't make
come
the festival less real.
oh my goodness, yeah, I see that happen all the time.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, it is brutal. But no, I appreciate you kinda touching on that because that is definitely an accurate and relatable thing that I deal with as well.
yeah, just people not understanding the timelines.
Yeah, yeah, because sometimes things have to be, like, really thorough and have to be live, and other people have to know about them, stakeholders have to be involved sometimes, and, like, sometimes, like, it is, like, a confidentiality, issue, right? And, like, you have to be really just conscious of things, and I think, like, ultimately, it's just about being like that with your audiences too, whether it's, like, you're playing a small show or a massive venue, or you're applying for your first, like, tour. I think, like, just having a plan and maybe just having someone that's somewhat good at it would be really beneficial, or she probably shouldn't bother.
Yeah.
That's just
No,
that's
I
just how I look
agree.
at it. People ask me, like, all the time, like, in schools and stuff like that, when I speak at schools, like, "How do I get, into doing something you're doing?" And my biggest piece of advice, um, to them is whether, you're just starting school or not, right? Just getting out. Like, you need to have your own domain. You need to be blogging. You need to go out and, like, do marketing for other people. You need to give out your time. And,
Yeah.
you know, like, you do have to hustle for a bit, because ultimately at the end, if you finish a marketing course or a music production course or whatever it is, it's all about who you know, not about what you know. And if you don't have any experience, any practical experience, it's more of a liability to take someone on.
Yeah.
Now, all like, as well, titles and, people with, like, really long titles and a lot of degrees aren't as, um, you know, what's the word? Aren't as sexy sometimes, because big firms, corporations don't wanna pay what they're worth, right? So it's easier to hire
Yeah.
out third-party companies, consultants, but I think it's like, if you're a conscious consultant and you work, to roll up your sleeves and help people, I think you can find a lot of, like, opportunity, there, so
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, that you make a great point there. Anybody can go take a course or go to college or whatever and get that piece of paper that says, "Hey, you know this." And, I've done that. I have that piece of paper. I learned way more from actually doing it, and, like, specifically the audio portion of my degree.
right.
I learned so much more from YouTube of all places. Like, the business side, I enjoyed that, and it was a fun environment, but the audio portion, like, if anyone's considering audio school, don't do it. Just go to YouTube. You will learn so much more.
And I also say too, like, it's people aren't necessarily sometimes looking for education, they're looking for a fit. They're looking, is someone willing to learn? Are they looking for a fit? So, I don't tell people to take shortcuts in any way, and I don't say that school isn't not effective. But, like, I have friends, for example, whether they're photographers, other marketers, journalists, whoever they are, a lot of them also have had to adapt and evolve their skill set because of social media, and they've not necessarily been paid additional, like, to do those things, but those are now things in their tool bag that they have that they can offer as part of their expertise.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, like, it is really important to kind of say, like, all right, well, is it worth it to go take a couple of years of time to do a course? Or do I start going to work with somebody like James or with Kate, take on a lot of their work that maybe they don't have the time to do? They'll train me. And then when I'm done, if they don't have time to take me on, they'll know at least five other people that they will 100% refer me to, rather than go be an intern for 6 months and be poor.
Yeah,
Sometimes
absolutely.
sometimes that is a better option, and when I look at, a lot of businesses that are getting money for the first time, or they're successful getting a grant, or they've gotten some sales, so they're pushing through to that next phase, um I think it's really important to look at, like, you talk about this so much, but really how that money is working back for you. So if it is a couple $100 on show photography, that's likely going to live for a while. Same with your logo, making sure that it's properly vectorized, making sure that it's ready to have merch. Maybe you have a quick website done and now you have drop shipping. Now you don't have to order any merch. You just drop ship it all.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people are blown away by that option. It's just because they don't know about it, right? They probably think that it's, and in some instances it is, but I mean, it can be a lot of hours and thousands of dollars, right, to add some of that functionality to a site. But a lot of it is just simply making an account, adding a plugin, right, and a little bit of code, and all of a sudden you've got 15 products with Strange Grooves on it, or Cait Milberry marketing, right, without having to incur buying 100 t-shirts or a pair of sweatpants, right?
Yeah.
So there's an
Amazon does it now.
yeah, really, I didn't know that.
Yep, it's called Amazon Merch. I have to look into it more. I just heard of it, like, this
Oh,
past week.
yeah, okay.
But, I mean, that's
Literally right.
probably the easiest thing because it also comes with Prime shipping. So it's not like, I
Wow.
I've used Cafe Press and stuff back in the day. It's like, 14-day lead time
Yeah.
with shipping and manufacturing. Amazon's like, nope, we'll have it to you in 2 days after it's printed. So they probably take a day or two to print it and then 2-day shipping. Like, that's fantastic. And now,
Wow.
say
Really
what you
good.
will about Amazon. I'm not the biggest fan of their business practices. I don't think anyone is, but they do business better than anyone else as far as the consumer is concerned.
Right.
That's what it comes down to, the consumer experience.
It does. That's what I was gonna say. It comes down to customer service, customer experience. And
Yep.
that's when I'm gonna go back to the video you shared today about like, when you go in and you're playing like that first like high energy song and like leaving out on that high note, like people need to remember the experience that they have so that they think, oh shit, what was that song? I'm gonna listen to them on Spotify. Maybe I will go to the neighboring town and go watch them. Maybe I will buy their
Yep.
CD off of Bandcamp. And I think like bands put so much effort into just like getting out there, and like it is tiring because a lot of them will have full-time jobs and families. So even just getting out there and even trying to do the business part can sometimes be really hard and cringy for people. And like I know a lot of my friends now that have pushed really great people to put out their very first albums, and like they're fucking awesome, and like they're now touring. But now it's us being nitpicking, be like, no, you have to make content. You have to, and I think it's because they do have something great, but not everybody maybe necessarily wants to get great reach or to have, lots of streams, but some people do. And it is
Yeah.
good to know how to get there and who to work with. And I think through these regular chats, folks, if you stayed along with us this time, like I think we're going to be providing a lot more insight into some of the things like that we're working on every week, who we're working with, and if there's any, cool apps or anything like that that we could use to help each other. I think that's always very helpful. So
Yeah. And I think I have a perfect story to wrap this up if we got
yeah,
time. All right. So I've been doing playback for a local band called Nerves. And I say local because one of their singers lives here about an hour away. But the other vocalist slash guitarist lives in Long Island for med school, which is
okay,
about, I'm in Vermont. So that's about a 6-hour drive.
right,
They played a show here Tuesday night when he had an 8 a.m. med school class in Long Island.
that's dope.
He wanted to be there. Like, he knew that when they booked the show that he was going to have to finish the show, drive home, get home at like 5 a.m., shower, change, and go to class. If you want to do something badly enough, you can do it.
You
He
can do.
could have said, "No, I have a class the next day. I can't do that."
Mhm.
Instead, he said, "I will be there. Let's book the show."
Yeah,
Like, if you want something badly enough, there will not be any excuses aside from, like medical emergencies, family emergencies, that's kind of stuff. Totally understandable.
right.
But you're not going to let anything hold you back. That if it's physically possible, you will be there to do whatever thing it is you need to do to further your career as an artist.
I always ask myself and tell my clients to ask themselves these three questions. So if, for example, if a client says to me today at 4:55, even though I work all night, who am I kidding? If it's at 4:55 and a client sends me an email and says, "Cait, we need an entire new poster done um, by 6 o'clock, and we need it completely redone." I ask myself three questions. One, is it possible? Two, is it fair? And three, does it work for me?
Yeah.
And I'm a bit selfish on that, right? And I think businesses and bands should ask themselves that all the time because and same with that. Somebody could say, "Oh, well, that's irresponsible. Maybe he did shitty on the test, maybe this and that." But maybe he's actually really good with time management and did really great studying and knows the curriculum really well, is really like uses music as the outlet and can actually manage time really well, which makes him a really great student, right? And I
Yeah.
think it's all about just managing your strategy and your growth. And like you said, if you want it, you'll get it.
Yeah.
And I think like a lot of folks are okay with just okay, and they sometimes need other people to push them to be a little bit better. And it's not for any negative reason, but sometimes people just don't know what they don't know. So they don't know how to put their music on Instagram or through Spotify or DistroKid. Like they don't know what they don't know. So even just sometimes like going through TikTok and finding tips and tricks. I businesses all the time. Why the hell would I use TikTok? I don't want to do dancing videos. I say if you ever want to know something in real time that's going on in the world, go to TikTok and type in a hashtag. If you want to know what's happening, whether it's a hurricane, a war, a concert that's going on. If you want to know what it looks like in real time, go to TikTok. Use
Yep.
hashtags, right? And you'll be able to find that. Same with tips and tricks or YouTube, right? And I think people just have to look at their business as not just business time, but as creative time.
Yeah.
Um, we had just mentioned that today, but the music platform, you know, how will people want to stay on it? What and I said, well, what it has to be is it has to be YouTube for musicians and for bands because at the end of the day, I use YouTube every day. I use it to tune out and watch trashy TV shows in between meetings just to have a minute to myself. I use it for my dog to watch dog walking TV. I use it for watching podcasts. I use it to find new tips about things that are happening in the marketing world. But I don't always log in all the time to be in like motivated, learn business marketing strategies mode. Sometimes I just want to watch Below Deck and learn about boats.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that that's what the platform is going to be. And that's what I think bands and brands should be doing as well is giving a place where people feel safe, where things are accessible, they can be informed and like really be part of that base. Because there's a reason why there's a Kiss army and like a fish following. And like it really is quite insane, right? And
Yeah.
I'm bookmarking the fish marketing chat for our next chat.
Nice.
The fish marketing machine.
Being from Vermont, I know far less about fish than I should, so I'll have to do some research to approach that chat.
Well, they're just to me, in my opinion, I think some of the smartest marketing people out there.
Yeah.
And they've made, their shows and a lot of their material accessible. They monetized it before it was even a thing. And, I know for years, as much as I love heavy metal, like I would watch the New Year's Eve run of Fish every year. I'd pay $50 or $100, whatever it is. Same with Kiss or whatever. Like I don't mind paying to have a good home experience either. And this was obviously even before COVID.
Yeah.
Um, but you don't always have the cash to fly out to other cities or to go places, or sometimes, circumstances in life don't allow you to do that. So what's a few $100 on a band that you really love and a well-produced, you know what I mean, segment of something, right?
Yeah. Eh,
And they
middle of nowhere problems. I totally get you.
like they really and especially too with merch, being able to mail out like a lot of their tour merch in advance and like really changing like the line systems and stuff. Like I think like from a marketing perspective, they're probably one of my favorite case studies.
Yeah. Which speaking of merch and being able to do pre-orders before a tour, the app called Merch Cat is so cool because people can order their merch on the app and then just walk up to your merch table and say their name or their email, whatever you're using to identify them, and you hand them the order and it's all paid for and done. So that makes the merch experience so much easier, it shows,
Yeah,
especially now if people are still concerned with like low contact. That's a cool way to do it. Plus, you can get some guaranteed merch sales before the show even starts.
right.
Like you get that money that much sooner.
Damn. I'm gonna look into that one. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like $11 a month or so. So it's not
Yeah.
the cheapest, but it's way
Oh,
cheaper than at Venue, which I mean, I love at Venue. I've used it a lot, but it's way too expensive for most independent artists.
yeah, that's understandable. Okay. Merch cat. Okay, that could be a game changer. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I think it will be. I've turned a few artists onto it and they all love it so far.
I'm like, like that could be really, really fun. Thanks for that note. I like that. That's fun.
Sure thing.
Um, well, thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah,
I
my
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thanks
I
again
do.
for the invite.
Appreciate it. The brain's just percolating now, and you guys, if you've listened along this whole time, thank you. If you have any questions for us, let us know. Reach out on Instagram. And until next time,
Looking forward
thanks
to
so
it.
much.
Thanks
Enjoy
for
the rest of
listening.
your day, and hope you get some downtime a little bit.
Yes. Here.
Maybe.
Fingers crossed, same to you.
Yeah. Okay. See you later, buddy.
See ya.